Welcome back to the Division 2. Take a look at that DPS and the damage last hit. It's been a fairly long time. I've actually been grinding for gear to optimize this build for the last couple of days. I did say in my rant video, like when I said I was leaving the game, I said the classic M1A is a weapon to go to, because when they released episode 2 they did a lot of balance changes to the weapons, and the M1A I already knew from personal experience that the gun was amazing. The devs then went and boosted the damage by 38%. So I've got a build going for it. You can see the damage numbers. I'll show you because it's not 2.5 million every single time. But it averages around, I'd say about 2 million DPS. Every headshot is about 500,000. Crits are what deal 684k. So jumping into the build to show you exactly what you need. Make sure you're running sharpshooter. It will give you the bonus headshot damage. Then with your rifle, you don't need to worry about talents and stuff, but I've got breadbasket on it, Allegro to boost up the rate of fire, and in rhythm, which doesn't really get used. Make sure you are modding it with the ACOG scope if you're running the Nemesis with it. Then you want some extra rounds in there because it's by default a 10 round mag. And then I would go with crit chance because you can go with crit damage and boost the amount of damage you deal, but if your chance is very low, you're not going to be hitting crits often. Then obviously you run the Nemesis for preparation, which is well holstered. You gain 15% headshot damage when scoped with your current weapon. Because it's an ACOG scope, you don't actually have to look down the scope. You can fire from the shoulder and you still get that extra headshot damage in there. The pistol, I just run stop, drop and roll so that when there's a status effect applied, I can just roll and it's going to get rid of it. Now the mask, bear in mind this build isn't fully optimized. There are extras I could do to it. You'll see on the left side there's an 1161. I've got 119.5k primary weapon damage, but make sure you have at least one piece of Overlord on there to get the 10% rifle damage. Then you want to go for DTE on the mask. I've got 46% because Con was an absolute lad. He found 2 from the same drop whilst we were out farming for DTE, and he got a 47 and 46, so obviously he's going to give me the 46. He wants his build to be better, and by right he should be doing that because he found them both. But we were both grinding for a little bit, and the highest I was finding was like 13%, 21% and stupid amounts, and I had 24% before. I've already recorded this video once, but I've improved the build massively since then. So I thought I'd go and re-record it, just so that you can actually see everything when it's a lot more optimized than it was. On the backpack, you just want to be rolling weapon damage, getting it as high as you possibly can. I've got 11% on the bag, 4% crit damage and a little bit of armor on there. I'm using Spark because backpacks don't really have any good talents for a DPS build. The bag talents, the active ones at least, they're pretty much used for utility, so like skill builds and stuff. But Spark, damaging enemies with skills or explosives, so you can use your grenades, it doesn't have to be skills, grants 15% weapon damage for 15 seconds. Then I've also got Hardened on there for some extra armor, and you'll see in my offensive mod, I've got 1.5% weapon damage, 3% rifle damage. Over to the chest. Again, you just want to make sure that you have that weapon damage coming in. I was lucky enough to get a good roll with this a long time ago. This was actually, I believe this chest was from when I was running the raid. But 15% weapon damage, I've got a 10.5% crit chance and a 9% crit damage on here. Then Vigilance, which is amazing. You get 25% extra weapon damage unless you take damage, but then that only disables the buff for 4 seconds. Defensive mod, to bring it up because realistically with any build on this game, I like to have 6 blues so that Patience is active. Then we've got a utility mod on there as well. With the gloves, you just want to be going for rifle damage all the way. I've only got 10%. I believe I can get that boosted up to 12 if I get lucky enough to find a pair that has the stat that high. Then I can't actually recalibrate because I put Obliterate on here. They did have Clutch, but it was either Obliterate or I think it was Wicked I was going to go with. But Wicked involves setting status effects and stuff. So I went with Obliterate because all you need to do is deplete an enemy's armor. You gain an extra 30% crit hit damage for 15 seconds. And I'm not 100% sure if Wicked actually works. I can't remember what requirements it has to activate the talent. But the offensive mod, 0.5% weapon damage, 5% rifle. So that's boosting it as well. Over on the holster, again, brand sets really don't matter as long as you've got 1 Overlord. I mean, if you could possibly get 2 Overlord or even 3 to boost the DTE, then you are looking even better. But we've got 15% crit hit chance on here, which is huge. I had 13% but managed to find a holster with the 15% earlier on today. 25% DTE from hard hitting. And I'm lucky enough to only have one on this build because obviously talents don't stack anymore. And then again, 4% rifle damage and 1% weapon damage from the offensive mods. So there's a lot of damage coming into this build from the mods. Then over to the knee pads. Brand set again doesn't really matter. I've got some health on there. Patience, which is my favourite talent in the game. Then a couple of defensive mods I was lucky enough to get these knee pads so that then blues build up on the build and we can actually have patience activated. So that's a quick look. I used the Revive Hive and the Chem Launcher for healing. And obviously you'll see like my knee pads are only 96% recalibrated. So if I can find some with higher health, then I can recal and make that a little bit better. Going into the stats, just to show you quickly, Optimist is on the pistol, so that's not affected. 119,473 weapon damage, 30.5% crit hit chance, 53% crit hit damage, 85% headshot damage. So make sure you're running sharpshooter to get that extra 15%. Alright, I can't remember if it's 15 or 25 for sharpshooter because they've changed it all around. 29% all weapons damage, that could probably be boosted a little bit more. But then going down to the rifle damage at 47, so those together make 76% extra weapon damage for my rifle. 71% DTE, that was 49 until Com found me the 46% DTE on the mask that I've recaled. Then we've got a little bit of armor damage in there, and then that stuff really doesn't matter. So, you can see from my DPS testing that it's an absolute beast. Like, you don't need millions and millions and millions of DPS, and this isn't consistent 2.5 mil. But if we reset, this is a named target, it's 3 shots, 1.5 million. The quicker I take them out, the less DPS I actually get. So if I reset that again, 1.4 mil. See, I'm 2 shot in named enemies. 3 shots, so it's 1.5 mil. 1.1. It's literally because I keep getting crits all the time. 1.4. 1.3 because that was a double crit. No crits at all, 1.4. I don't know how I got the 2.5. It was literally just before I started recording. There we go, we hit a 1.7. I mean, it's still not 2 million. It's because I'm critting so often. But I showed you 2.5 and then I was always hitting way below 2 million. It is because I kill the enemies so fast. And as I've always said, like the entire raid was DPS checks. Everyone has always abused the DPS builds. So there's like with my Nemesis, if I quickly shoot that. I headshot for like 2.5 million. If I crit, it's normally about 2.5, 2.6. If I crit, I get about 3.2. There are people that have builds so optimized they're getting like 5 to 6 million DPS like per shot with the Nemesis. And it's not all of it, like it's about the damage. It's not about the DPS. It's not about your damage per second. It's about your damage overall. So what we're going to do is we are going to take down the named boss that is just south of the White House, the one that we've always done. I want to show you just how strong this is. Obviously, I use a lot of cover because of patience. But this is such a good build, and I'm actually quite intrigued to see what they're going to do when Gear 2.0 comes out, because I'll still have this build. I'm not going to switch this one up. I absolutely love it. Cons just started using it, Average is working on building it, and literally we run through heroics. Like, I don't even use this during heroics, I always use my skill build. But this build, Cons obliterating heroic level enemies. So the named is down here. They're the purples. Where's the named? There you are, the Peacemaker. I've landed 1 shot. There's stop, drop and roll. Let me deal with these quick. Okay, boss, peek me. 1 headshot dead, and that's still with armor. It is ridiculous. You saw it. Named enemy. It was one shot to the head and one shot to, like, the first shot I landed, which depleted most of the armor. So it's a 2-shot to a named enemy. But that's obviously just roaming around the open world. If you go into a stronghold, you're playing on heroic, it's going to be a couple more shots. But literally 3 headshots and any, like, form of enemy is dead. Look, I'm one-tapping these red bars. There's another elite, not named, but you saw that, 943,000 crit. And I wasn't even expecting to see that. Even with body shots, I'm almost one-shotting these red bars. And there's still a little bit of optimizing I could do. So, what I'm going to do is, I'm actually going to challenge you guys to get a classic M1A build going. And I want you to let me know in the comments which sort of, I want to know your damage per hit, so your damage last hit in the shooting range, and I want to know the highest DPS you see, but make sure you are resetting that counter every single time. Don't leave the counter running when you're killing your next target. Every single target you kill in the shooting range, reset your counter, and let me know your max stats, or not even with this rifle build. I challenge you to make the build, but I want to know the highest DPS you've ever seen and your highest ever damage per hit. So let me know the good stuff in the comments. That's going to do it for the video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you for watching.